So I am really excited to be here to talk about this. So I was here in January with you in the spring release, and that was when we introduced Lightning Connect, and I gave you a live demo of how to connect SAP to Salesforce, and we went through kind of what some of that basic functionality was. Well, we haven't rested on our laurels since then. We've actually been very, very busy. But let me just recap what we launched then. So we introduced Lightning Connect, which is basically the fastest, easiest way to connect any data source with Salesforce. So it can be on-premise, it can be cloud, it can be third-party, it can be a proprietary app. It doesn't matter. But what we've done with Lightning Connect is we've enabled our customers to build a lightning fast integration to Salesforce using point-and-click tools. So you don't have to be a developer to know how to do this. It's all declarative in our setup menu, and it gives you access to the data in real time. And so what that means is when you're viewing data that's been integrated through Lightning Connect, it's always going to be accurate. And then we represent that data as an external object in Salesforce, which is very similar to a custom object. And so we're basically treating that data as if it's native to Salesforce. Okay, so that's what we introduced in January. So I'm excited today to talk to you about a couple of new developments. So there are two new amazing capabilities that we are bringing to market in the summer 15 release, so just a few weeks away. So those two things are, number one, something we're calling the Lightning Connect Apex Connector Framework. Okay, it's basically a framework that lets our customers build their own connector to any external application.
Wow.
So in our last release, you needed to work with a third-party middleware solution, and that middleware provider had to have pre-built connectors to an existing application, right? And oftentimes they have them. If you're talking about a really common application like Oracle or SAP or Microsoft, they have those. But we had a lot of customers come to us and say, you know, I have this other application. Can you connect to that? Can you make it easier for me to do that? And so we've come up with a way for them to do that using Apex, which a lot of our customers already know how to use.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about today. The second thing I'm going to talk about is another capability that lets customers use Lightning Connect to connect multiple Salesforce orgs together. Ooh. Now, this is a big deal for any customer who has multiple Salesforce orgs. Whether you have 2, whether you have 40, you can use Lightning Connect, Salesforce Connector, to connect those together.
I can't wait to see that.
All right, so I'm going to show you a live demo of both of those, but let's just go through here kind of what the capabilities are. So let's talk first about the Lightning Connect Apex Connector Framework. So what we're doing here is we're letting customers use their knowledge of Apex to write Apex classes to tell us what data source to go look at, how to parse that data, how to translate it, what the logic should be, and then represent that data in Salesforce in real time. So we're not using OData. We had a lot of customers say, hey, I'm not familiar with OData. Can you give me another way to do this? And so we're letting them use Apex, which they're already familiar with today. It's going to represent that data as an external object, as I said, and I'm going to show you what you can do with external objects. You can put them into custom applications, you can put them into custom tabs, so we're going to show you that today. Now let's just show you a couple of screenshots of what this actually looks like. So basically what a customer is going to do is you're going to just go in, create a couple of Apex classes, and then just like they did with Lightning Connect, they're going to set up a new external data source. It's all point and click, and then they're just going to tell us how they want us to treat that data, and that data connection is going to be live in Salesforce immediately. So Eric kind of started this trend of living dangerously, living on the edge today, of building apps live. I'm going to show you how to do a live integration in just a few minutes.
Great.
So, and hopefully I'll be as successful as he was. So now let's talk about the next piece of this, which is how you can use Lightning Connect to connect multiple Salesforce orgs together. So when we released, let me talk about pricing and patching for this real quickly.
Sure.
So the Apex connector is actually going to be bundled as part of our existing Lightning Connect SKU. So if you already have Lightning Connect, you will automatically get the ability to build your own connectors using Apex. They're just going to be built in. It's also going to be available with all Developer Edition orgs. So anybody who's out there today who has a Developer Edition org, as soon as they get Summer 15, they can actually start playing with this and experimenting with it. So definitely don't wait to do that. And then of course, this is always available as an add-on to any of our other editions.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so now let's go back to the Salesforce connector.
Yes.
So when we released this, we had a lot of customers who said, hey, you've made it so easy for me to connect an external data source to Salesforce. Can you use the same technology to help us connect multiple Salesforce orgs together? And we said, hey, that's a great idea. And so we took a look at that, and that is in fact what we've built. So I'm going to show you again in my demo, but what you basically are going to do is you're going to go into the exact same interface that you use to create a data connection to, say, Oracle or Siebel or Microsoft, whatever legacy data source you're using. And you're basically just going to create a new data source, and that data source will simply be Salesforce. And you get all the same functionality. So you can set it up in minutes, so you don't have to be a developer. I'm not a developer, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So you can set it up in minutes. It's going to get you real-time access to that data. And again, that data is going to be represented as an external object in Salesforce. Okay. Now, there's a couple of different use cases for this. So the one that I'm going to show you today, and I think is a really common one, is oftentimes you will find that different departments or different divisions in a company are using different Salesforce orgs, right? You know, a classic example is the sales organization starts using Salesforce, right? And so they've got a big deployment. And then the service organization separately says, hey, that Salesforce, that's kind of neat, man. We should do something too. And it's cloud-based, and they were able to implement it so quickly. But they don't want to get sort of held back by the other organization's implementation. And so they kind of go off on their own, and they built their own org. And that's great, and everyone's happy. And then a year later, the sales folks are saying, well, how come I can't see my customers' service cases in my view? I want to see that access too, and there are lots of conversations, and it gets complicated. Well, that's a great example of what we're going to enable people to do today with Lightning Connect for Salesforce. So let me just show you a couple of quick screenshots. So basically, as I said, the exact same interface. You're just going to log in, you're going to go to the Setup menu, create a new external data source, and you're going to tell us it's the Salesforce external data source. And then once you authenticate using your Salesforce credentials, you can have us bring in any object you want from that organization, from that Salesforce org, and then you can incorporate that data into things like Visualforce pages, custom tabs, and mobile apps, okay? So it's pretty straightforward. One question I'm sure a lot of folks who are watching us are wondering right now is, how is this different from Salesforce to Salesforce? Historically, that has been one of the ways that our customers have connected multiple Salesforce orgs together. So here's how to think about this. Salesforce to Salesforce is an ETL solution. And so that stands for extract, transform, and load. And what that means is that you're creating a copy of that data from the other org into this new Salesforce org. And that's not ideal for a number of different reasons. The data goes stale, it can be out of date, you're taking up tons and tons of storage. You might not want all of that data there, you just want some of that data there. And so this is really going to be a much better solution if you want to give that kind of read-only access to another Salesforce org. It also supports multiple different integration paradigms. So you can do bidirectional, you can chain them together, you can do a master and slave, and there's an unlimited number of orgs that you can connect.
Wow, unlimited.
Unlimited. We hope that our customers don't have an unlimited number of orgs, because that's going to get messy to manage. But yes, there is no limit to the number of orgs that you can connect. So let me just briefly talk about pricing and availability for this, and then we're going to go into a demo. So just as before, so this is bundled into our existing Lightning Connect SKU, and it's also going to be available in summer 15, so just in a few weeks here. So if anybody watching today has already purchased Lightning Connect from us, they will just get this automatically.
It's just going to appear.
It's just going to appear. It's just going to appear. It will be automatically enabled for all developer orgs as well. So again, people can start playing with this as soon as they get that summer 15 release. And for anybody who doesn't have it and wants it, they can go ahead and purchase this as an add-on. It's available for most of our editions.
Great.
You want to see a demo?
I really want to see a demo.
All right, great. So I am going to swap over to my machine. And if we could just switch over to the demo machine, we are going to go ahead and get started. So what we're going to start with first, since I showed you two capabilities, is I'm going to show you first how you can create a live connection to an external data source. Okay. So the scenario here is that this company is Acme, my favorite company, and their sales organization wants to get stock ticker information about some companies. And so just to keep this really simple, I'm just going to pull in data from Yahoo Finance, basically. Okay, we're going to pull it in for Salesforce, since that's the stock that I like to check the most. But you can use any data source, right? You could pull in data from Siebel, you can pull in data from Oracle, you could pull in data from DB2. You know, if you've built a proprietary application in your company, you could pull that data in too, okay? So what we're going to do is we're here in the setup menu, which I think most of the folks watching today are probably very, very familiar with, I hope. And we're just going to scroll down on the left, and we're going to go into develop. We're going to go into the Apex class area here. And, you know, I'm not a developer, so I had my Apex developer build these classes for me. I think it took him about an hour or so to create these. Okay. Let me just show you what these each look like. So I'm just going to click in here, and you can just see here what this text looks like, right? The body of this class. All we're basically doing here is telling Salesforce the URL to go out to get the stock data from Yahoo, and then how to parse it and how to translate it, okay? So that's one class here. So that one's done. Let's go back and we'll look at the other one here. So this is the data source provider. This is basically just like a header file, okay? So pretty straightforward. So running it back. Okay, so our Apex classes are set up, like I said, took him about an hour to do, pretty basic. So now what we want to do is create a new external data source. So just as you've always done, if you were using Lightning Connect, you go into the search box for the setup menu, and you click external data sources. Now, we're going to click new external data source because we're going to create a new one to Yahoo. Let's call it Yahoo Finance. And in the drop-down box, you'll notice it always used to just say OData 2.0, and now we have another option, okay? So this here says Lightning Connect Custom, so I'm gonna go ahead and select that. And if I want to, I could set different sort of authentication, but since we're just getting stock data here, there's nothing in particular here that we have to do. So I hit save, and now I'm gonna hit validate and sync. Validate and sync basically goes out to that external data source, and it's going to introspect the data source, and it's going to see what is available to us that we can bring back. So it did that, and it found a particular object or table that we can bring back, which is stock. And that's exactly what we said we wanted in our Apex classes, so I'm glad it said that. If it said something else, we'd have a problem. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to hit sync. The interwebs are churning. All right. So the interwebs churned, and here we go. We see our new external object that has been created called stock. So let's just click on that. And you can see this looks like just like any other external object as we've seen in the past. The API name here you can see is stock__x, right? So that's for the external object. You can see all the different parameters here of this external object, custom fields, relationships, etc., that have been created. Okay, so we have a live integration set up. The final step is for us to actually be able to see the data. And so one of the best ways for us to see this data easily is to create a custom tab. So in my setup menu, I just go to create, I click on tab, and I'm going to click on new custom tab. The object I want to show in this tab is that stock external object that I just created. Now let's give it a tab style. I think I saw something in here about bags of money or stacks of money. Where did that one go? Okay, I'm not finding it right this minute, so I'm just going to click green. Money is green. Okay, and we're going to hit next. And we want this visibility to be on for everybody, so let's go ahead and click next again. I want the tab to be included in all of our custom maps because our stock is very important, so I click save, and there we go. So we are done. So let's just go ahead and take a look at our tabs, and you can see there's a new tab that's been added here called stock. So let's click on that tab, and we have a whole bunch of stock information here. So that integration is being done in real time. But you might be looking at this and saying, where's the stock price, right? So we can do a quick edit of this layout or this view that we're seeing here. So we just click edit in our tab menu, scroll down, and let's see what we should add. Let's add the symbol. Let's add volume. How about close price and date? Okay, and I'm going to move date up to the top, and I hit save, and there you go.
Wow.
So that was a real-time query of stock information from Yahoo. And I used stock today, but we can use any external application that lives outside of Salesforce. You can do what I just did today using point-and-click tools to create an integration to that data service in minutes and connect that data into Salesforce.
Wow. So that just took you, what, 5 minutes?
I think so.
About
5.5 maybe.
So prior to this, prior to what we're doing now with our latest releases, that would have taken hours of work at the least.
Months probably.
Yeah.
Like that would have taken months. I've talked to so many customers who told me that when they do an integration, if they're going to do a full-blown integration, it's going to take them 6 to 9 months. And they have to have an enterprise architect. They have to have somebody who specializes in doing integrations because they're so complicated and they're so tricky. And we heard from our customers that this was a really big challenge for them, and so we wanted to make it easier for them to integrate.
Wow, I think we've delivered.
I'm glad to hear you say that. All right, you want to see the second part of the demo?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and go back to our setup menu. So again, we are Acme, my favorite company. We're a sales organization. And so, the challenge here for Acme is that they also have a service organization, okay? And so here's that service organization. And the service organization tracks cases, right? And so let's go ahead and look at an account here. So this account we're going to take a look at is called Edge Communications. Now, if I scroll down, Edge Communications currently has 3 cases that are being worked on. And the challenge is if I'm the account executive on Edge Communications, I want to know about these cases before I go make a sales call on this account and kind of put my foot in my mouth, right? But today, they don't have a way to see that information. Their only option is to, walk to the other building and go find the service rep working on it and ask them. So we're going to make it easier for them to do that. So I'm going to switch back into my sales organization here, okay? And we're in the setup menu. And so what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to find my external data sources, and I'm going to create a new one. So new external data source, and I'm going to call this service case. And the type I'm going to select this time, again, you'll notice there's another one here called Lightning Connect for Salesforce. So I'm going to select that here in my drop-down menu. We already know the URL to log into Salesforce. I can select different versions of the API. I'm going to go ahead and pick the latest because we like to be innovative here at Salesforce. And to authenticate, what I'm going to need to do is put in the username and password for that organization. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put in my username, which is admin@acmeservice.com. Now, Asaf, don't look over my shoulder at the password. I know you're the encryption guy. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit save. Okay, so I had the right username and password. That worked. Now let's hit validate and sync. What that just did is look at the service organization for this company and look at every object that exists in that org. And so I'm going to scroll down here, and you're going to see every object here from that service org is available to me here to bring into Salesforce in real time if I want. Okay, so there are a lot here. It was that easy to connect these 2 orgs. Pretty amazing. Now, for the demo today, since we just want cases, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to select case, okay, and let's sync. The action of hitting sync creates that external object in Salesforce. So it kind of creates that empty container, that virtual container. It instantiates all of those custom fields, relationships, and properties, okay? And you can see here that external object's been created. Let's click into it. There you go. There is our API name, and here is all of this information. Now, I'm going to make one small change to minimize confusion. Okay. Every Salesforce org comes out of the box with a standard case object, and I don't want us to confuse cases in this org with the other one. So let's just go ahead and make a simple change. So service cases, let's do this here too. Service, and I'm going to change it here. Great. Okay, so we're all done. Now, the easiest way, as I mentioned before, to see this data in Salesforce is to create a tab. So let's go ahead to create. And we're going to create another tab. And this time I'm going to create a new tab, and it's going to contain cases. Now you see that service case is available to me right here in that drop-down menu. So let's see, what color should we do this time? Let's do chalkboard, okay? So I always want to know what cases are up on the board, if you will. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to hit next. I want everyone to be able to see the tab. I want it to be included in all of my applications, so I'm going to hit save. And we're done. So let's take a look at it. There's my brand new tab for service cases. And this is the data that we're going to see. And, okay, we had a little problem. I'm not sure what that problem is.
But that's okay. As we're sort of reloading things, I mean, let's just talk at a high level about what customers will see.
Yeah. So what the customers would see in that case actually is they would see all the different service cases that are available to them in this org from the other organization. And then what you could do is you go into the setup menu and say, you know what, I don't need to see all 150 cases that are alive today. I want to see the cases that are specific to Edge Communications. So you would then go in and you would take the account ID for the cases and you would map that to the account ID in this sales organization, and you would be able to see those 3 specific cases on the Edge Communications tab in context.
Wow.
So that way, if you're an account executive, as you're preparing for your meeting before you go out to meet, you would just look at those 3 cases and you could walk in the door and be prepared and say, hey, how's that case going? I understand what's going on with your business. Let's talk about that. So we're really excited about these two developments. I want to switch back to the slides and just show you what's coming in our roadmap. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we have some really exciting things planned on the roadmap. So today, Lightning Connect is read-only. So you can read data from your source organization, but customers have told us they actually want to be able to write data back to that source organization. So coming later this year, we'll actually enable customers to have full CRUD and write back to that original data source.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's going to be really exciting. The second thing that we're working on is reports and dashboards. You know, what's so interesting is when you give people access to data, they immediately want to take action on it.
Yes.
They want to do analysis on it, right? And so we're really working on the ability to let them create reports and dashboards with that data from an external source. And then the third big thing that we're working on, again, in the name of taking action on that data, is our customers have said that they want to be able to feed that data into things like triggers and workflow. Of course, that makes sense. And so that's the third big roadmap item that we're working on. So hopefully I'll be back here soon in another release to share those new updates with you.
Yeah, I mean, this release is fantastic, but now all I want to do is get to the next release because the things that you're talking about are game changers, every single one of them.
They really are.
Wow.
They really are.
That's just incredible. So I have to pick my job off the floor for the things that we've been covering today. But the amount of time that we're going to be saving our customers and the ease of use that all these functions carry is just staggering. Elna, I mean, what are our customers saying online?
Well, I got to tell you, JD and Paul really loved your stock ticker example. they're definitely loving how simple it is, and a really great example. And many people are looking forward to edit capabilities for sure. So there's some talk about that. Now, for the admins out there, what would you say is the skill level or knowledge level that would be required to use these features? I mean, does it require a lot of studying, development, knowledge?
It doesn't, and that's what's so great about how we've built this is that we wanted to empower our admins to do these integrations and to do them quickly without having to go hire a systems integrator per se, or find somebody in the organization who has that ability to do integration. So if you want to connect Salesforce orgs together, you saw me do it. It's point and click tools. I haven't written code in 15 years, and I can connect Salesforce orgs now. If you want to use the Apex connector framework, there is a little Apex coding that is required. So if you have someone in your organization who can just write those 2 Apex classes for you, you can do the rest using point and click tools. And again, our first release always enabled our customers to do this using a middleware vendor, and that you plug in your middleware tool, and again, you're just using point and click tools.
Wow.
Right.
That's great.
I do have other questions, so just let me know if you...
Oh, we do. We absolutely have time, so
perfect.
Please feed them.
So Jeff is wondering, how would you control what synced data users can see? For example, if they have distributors and they want to share just the cases that for that distributor's accounts, how would that work?
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple of different ways that you can authenticate, and I went ahead and put in my username and password for the admin account, but you could actually do it on a named principal, or I should say a per user basis, where each user has to put in their own user and password, and then they see only the data that they have the permission to see. So that's one way to do it. The other thing is, keep in mind, when I went in as an admin and I said, here's the source org, let's look at all their objects, there were probably 40 or 50 different objects available, but I just chose one. And so if you only want to share one object with your distributors, you can choose just that one object.
Great. Now for the Apex custom components, can you talk a little bit about what types of systems you could integrate? Could you really integrate with any system, or is there a list of systems that work with it?
Yeah, I get this question all the time. Somebody says, can you send me the list of questions? And I say, it's any application. I mean, Yahoo Stock isn't really an application, it's a data source, right? And we were able to connect with that in real time. I have customers say, can I connect with my mainframe? Yes, you can. You can connect to any data source. It can be on premises, it can be cloud. It can be third party. It can be a custom app that you yourself have built in your organization. So it can literally be any app. We see a lot of folks wanting to connect to some of their legacy CRM or service applications. That's pretty common because they're trying to build an agility layer around those legacy apps using Salesforce. Another thing we see a lot is billing or e-commerce applications like Magento. We hear a lot about that. People want to connect that with Salesforce, but really, you can connect any application to Salesforce with Lightning Connect.